Hi guys, Oliver here from Spitfire Audio. In this video, I'd like to focus on two things: sound recordist, composer and adventurer David Fanshawe and his incredible story, and how I've used his sounds to create this track inspired by another of my musical heroes, Gustavo Santaolalla, especially his recent work for The Last of Us, an absolute incredible soundtrack. David Fanshawe was a composer and sound recordist amongst other things, and he collected sounds from the Middle East, North and East Africa during the 60s and 70s. Fanshawe's pioneering spirit led him to the most remote corners of the earth to capture the traditions and spirit of rare communities by recording instruments, voices, music and languages. In Africa, for example, he achieved such closeness with hundreds of tribes that they allowed him to record their performances, for which he's used Nagra, Uher and Stella Vox tape machines. So imagine that back in the day and getting really close to these really remote tribes and basically becoming friends of them, and for them to open up the secrets of their traditions, of their hundreds of years old traditions and music and sounds. And it's just absolutely amazing. Let me just show you a couple of sounds actually to give you an idea what this is. So here we've got Orbis. That's the name of the library, and we've digitalized his sounds into our eDNA engine because basically we wanted to take the world music aspect and kind of be a gateway for you guys to actually use it in cinematic productions and play around with it and put filters, etc. on it, other effects. But I'll play you some of these raw sound recordings of his. Pretty cool stuff. Some other ones here. Warrior's Strength, this is called. I mean, just putting a bit of reverb on it and it becomes something else, maybe some distortion, etc. And you have just a new sound palette, a refreshing sound palette, I believe. Analog to digital flute, this is also quite cool. And here it becomes something else already. This one I love, Carnival. See, and all of a sudden it becomes something completely different. And I love that. It just gives you a great inspiration. Something like that, just speeding it up a little bit, and it's perfect for an action or a chase scene, for example. At this point, I'd like to mention that the royalties of the sales of the library are going to preserve David's archive, which is absolutely enormous and really meticulously organized. So he's got around 2,000 stereo tapes, 950 boxes of colored slides, 40 volumes of handwritten journals, and we just help to preserve that through the sales of the library. We're also really proud to announce that we are now donating 10% of all further sales of the library to Africa Express, which promotes the concept of musical collaboration that breaks down boundaries and borders. So please go and check it out, africaexpress.co.uk, a really wonderful organization. And this leads me to the fantastic aim Fanshawe had to preserve these sounds and tribes, which were disappearing at the time. So in David's words, "Through the adventures of music and travel, I have been privileged to experience our world as a composer and musical explorer. It is my humble dream to go on sharing my aspirations with future generations through the legacy of my sound archives." This is such a beautiful idea, and isn't this why we all make music? This year marks a very special year because this year marks 10 years since David's death on the 6th of July 2010. David captured this incredible music and sounds which, without him, we would just simply not know about it, or at least not experience it in the actual form of usable sounds and recordings. As well as a fantastic creator of choral works such as African Sanctus, he composed over 50 scores for film, TV, and his organic recordings were featured in countless TV documentaries and feature films such as 7 Years in Tibet or Gangs of New York. Gangs of New York, actually one of my favorite films as well. So what happened next? I've started picking up the library again, using the 50 new presets as well as some of the older sounds. Please check the library to check out what else has been included in the update. And I thought, this actually lines up quite nicely with the soundtrack of Gustavo Santaolalla for The Last of Us Part 2, because I've been just listening to that soundtrack all day long since the game came out. And I thought, he's using these kind of interesting textures. Obviously he's got the Ron Rocco in the first part, and in the second part, I believe he's using more of a banjo. That's just his kind of signature sounds. But everything around it, the soundscape and stuff, just is something else. And it seems like coming from a very organic texture. And then I thought, why not getting inspired by the soundtrack with this library and create something along those lines? So just quickly up front, as you can see, I'm freezing quite a few tracks here. So that means it basically bounces it in place. It turns it into audio. So it deactivates the plugins here. So it saves me CPU up here. So I can run the tutorial much smoother. I'm running Pro Tools at the same time and ScreenFlow as well. And also the library is actually quite CPU heavy because most recordings are on one pitch, as you might imagine. And so we have to time stretch it across the range, and running several of those loops actually requires quite a powerful horse. So we recommend a mid-2015 Xeon as a minimum spec. I have currently a late 2013 Mac Pro, as you can see here. So in order of the tutorial to run smooth, I apply those workarounds. So there's another tip actually. If you don't have the minimum specs, you can go into the library here, click on settings, audio, and then scroll down, pitch, stretch quality, and you go here, CPU friendly. So if you click that, all the instances in your session use that setting here, and it will save you CPU power. You just want to turn it back when you bounce it out, so the quality of your stretching will be affected. The inspiration is very much the production on this track, a little bit the chords and this kind of arpeggiated stuff. As said, his signature is like the banjo or the charango and the Ron Rocco. We do have a charango actually on the labs, really wonderful sounding, but someone once said good artists copy, great artists steal, or something along those lines. So I don't exactly want to copy what he does, but I want to get inspired. So my main instrument is the piano. So I just took this kind of idea of this arpeggiated movements, especially that you hear right in the ends here. I go back, so I'm on A minor here. What he does a lot is A minor, G major, F major, and then on the fifth mode, E dominant 7, basically, to create this, what I'm doing actually right here, to create the tension and then resolve on the first step again, A minor. There, this one. It kind of does that a lot. It's a very beautiful chord progression. Here in the beginning, I'm on E minor and then going up to A minor just to lift the piece. And then I'm starting this. Following my string arrangement here, which I'm using the Oliver Arnold's chamber waves, which are just mind-blowing, absolutely fantastic. You can drop them in anywhere and they just fit really nicely. So they have different lengths, these waves here, longest, long, short, shortest, and I'm just playing with that to bring a little bit of dynamic into the piece there. Very subtle there. Here I'm bringing in the E again, E major. Actually, sorry, that's a lie. It's not an E major there. It's just a flat 5 there for you theory guys there. I apologize. So that's A, and then I put in an E flat. So that's kind of your bluesy note there, if you will. A tritone, which builds up the tension, which he also uses quite nicely on the banjo. I even believe in the main theme it comes up. And it just creates this like really wonderful kind of anticipation to something, but then he plays it so beautifully on wherever the banjo or the ronroco on both. And then when you go from there to the E major, that's actually what I'm doing right in the end here. So I'm copying a little bit, I guess, or stealing this chord progression that he uses there. And this is tied in, so this is kind of my harmonic structure there. And then basically the beginning of the piece, it's pretty much just the Orbis library. I have this temple drum hollow here, if we just have a quick listen. And again, I'm adding here modulation. It's like a march there. So that was the basis or the beginning. And then we have just these wonderful pads as well that are like stretched or drenched in reverb. It's quite cool. You can then assign these knobs here to your mod wheel. I've assigned it here to the tuning. And if we go in here, just very subtly, as you can see, I increase tuning a little bit. So that helps me building tension, just like getting a little bit higher. Not like, I'm not talking semitones or tones or octaves, I'm just kind of microtonal shifts there. Rainforest at Dusk. And here I'm using a trick that I've heard in Santaollalla's soundtrack, the panning. So yeah, sometimes sounds that disappear and then come out, and then they disappear and they come out on the other side. And I'm doing that with a couple of sounds here. And if you use pads and more atmospheric music, this will really keep the interest going. The human ear will like pick up the new thing, you know. And if you slowly fade it out, you won't really realize it fades out. Maybe something else comes in, and just making this whole pads and atmosphere as interesting as possible there. Hals pads, very wonderful pad there. One of the new presets that I like using. And you get these kind of artifacts from the recording as well, which again, I really love, and it makes it just a touch more organic and real. Industrial landscape. Again, it's just little sounds popping up here and there. If you look at my composition here, I've got a sound coming in here and here, and I will just take you through some of them. One of the major sounds in my beginning is this horn here, which is really, really cool. So I put a distortion on it, or an extra distortion, so it sounds like this. Wow, what a rich sound. I've got quite a lot of reverb on there actually. So here it's dry. Incredible, this recording. So we've got some reverb to put on here when I move my fader, my distortion, and my reverb here. Wow, just really, really wonderful sound. And here I'm doubling up this because it's like a swell. So I thought maybe I can use Oliver's swells strings here to play together, and it gives like this new texture. Let's just have a quick listen how this sounds. And then here, going into the next section, I've reversed this one with an abrupt stop here, just to mark the new section. I haven't really composed for games myself, but I believe you always want to compose in sections and loopable kind of sections of the piece. You imagine you stick around in one level and the song or the track starts looping at some point with some variables on there. So yeah, here I'm marking the new section with this reversed horn sound there. Without reverb, so it gives a clear and dry transition there. What I love about Gustavo Santaolla's music is that he always uses very natural sounds, and you can hear the fingers on the guitar. You can, you can feel the music, like you're there with him. And so I thought I used the piano, as kind of said in the beginning already. And I've used my piano back here, if you can see it, 2 coils. It's just constantly set up. I run you through my EQ quickly a little bit. So taking out the low ends, I've got it felted, double felted actually in the mid-range and lower range. And I just need to take out a little bit of that kind of mumbly kind of frequency. And here, that's where the clarity is, between around 4 and 6 or 3 and 8 thousand hertz. And I just want to add that a little bit. So let's just see without. You get a little bit more hiss, but that's absolutely fine. I compressed it quite heavily, so because there's a lot of stuff going on in the track, so I wanted to shine through a little bit, and it has less attack than, let's say, a banjo or charango, where you pick the string, and this is a much softer attack. So I want to bring that up a little bit. Then I'm sending quite a few reverbs using this plate, stereo enhancement a little bit. Then number 2 is Piano Delight preset. I usually go for presets and then I start tweaking it a little bit. Number 3 is my hall, so sending it to a different hall than the rest, just with a little bit of a shorter decay because I'm using a long one here with these 2 down here. Number 10 is my Valhalla Supermassive. One of the free plugins they made available during lockdown. It sounds quite nice. I'd like to experiment with it a little bit more. But again, I'm start going from presets. I always say they're presets for a reason. So these people make the plugins, so they surely know what they're doing and what kind of presets they're selecting. Number 5, I have this UAD warm slap echo there. And then I'm sending the echo through the Valhalla as well, so the echo gets treated with the big reverb. So that's kind of my current piano sound. So what else is going on here? So I'm using my drum machine here just to give a kick, quite subtle in the mix. Just on its own. Put an EQ on it because I don't want it to become like an electronic track with that typical tick on the top ends there of the 808. That's fine. I have a bit of a decay, boom, if you can kind of hear that boom there. It's important that that is in tune, so I put a tuner on there just to check. Should be an E there because I'm playing E minor. So that's okay there. I'm sending this to an empty track here, no output, because I have here this really low kind of bass coming in here, this low droning pulsing bass. So whenever the kick comes in, that bass goes out of the way, because what happens is that the kick and the bass, they're around here, and down here I wouldn't really want to have too many things going on because it just makes it muddy and unclear. So you can see here, whenever the kick comes in, and you can also hear it, maybe a little bit too much, but within the mix it's actually perfect. I've got these low tempo drums in there again. And I'm using the exact effect that I thought I heard in his production, where I pan it center, then it goes to right, then it goes to left, then the volume ducks out a little bit, comes up again, and I'm just trying to create interest through that. And again, up here, I've got little effects coming in and out. Let's listen to this overview effect. Swarmer here. Wow, isn't this lovely? This one here, again, the industrial landscape, where it just is like this hammering or something going on, but it's... It's kind of a cool effect. Oh, and then this shepherd's ghost. Wow, this is really amazing. Listen to this. Wow, what a wonderful effect right there. And then rhythm-wise, I've got this star cluster going on, which kind of increases the intensity right there in the end. Together with this. Again, just adding depth to my rhythm track right there. And then this brings us up to the next section, where I just stole that a little bit from one of his tracks, where he's got this like kind of ambient stuff going on, and these epic drums really come in and then slowly fading out. So I'm kind of taking this structural idea of his right there. Again, using the trito then there, flat 5, to create this like uncomfortable situation. And I'm using this sound, fuzz gongs, which are super epic. together with Hans Zimmer percussion here, I'm using Epic Hits. Why not using Epic Hits if I want to create something epic? Copying pretty much the same pattern on the paper tunes, one of my favorite sounds of the Hans Zimmer library here. Quite nice. Bombos. Quite a cool sound. And these ones are a little bit in a faster rhythm, so you have this kind of effect of like heavy hits together with these fuzzy gongs, and then the percussion there, the bombos playing almost the eighth notes. So I quite like how this sounds. So you have these almost ghost notes on a drum, you would call them, kind of on the side, and then heavy ones right down the middle with a lot of reverb. So, and then I've got this loop going through here, both loops as mentioned before, and here and there I've got something, you know, that builds a bit of interest. So I've got this bellstone rhythm, and then this marimba groove. I mean, you know, if you think about it, this could be like, okay, this is more typical world music, you know, but then in the mix, it just adds a little bit of drive there. If I just mix this up here together. So I quite like this combination, and I feel that's kind of what he's doing as well. Sometimes you have this like epic stuff going on, but then you have this beautiful playing right on top of the whole mix. So, and then I've got this rhythm here that I have in the beginning already, kind of to bring the listener back home. If I have listened to this. And then the arpeggios again. And what I love about this kind of production is it's the intimacy of a single instrument right there, you know, if you listen to his tracks, but then there's beautiful pads and beautifully crafted organic textures around it and building a beautiful bed for this main instrument. I hope I have achieved a nice balance here. Let me know your thoughts. I really hope you get to enjoy Orbis, and please look into David Fanshawe. Really an amazing and inspiring personality and musician. And I mean, it's just, you know, mind-blowing that he, you know, provides us with these sounds and that we can use them now in this kind of context. So I'll play you the whole track one more time. Thank you very much for listening and watching. Take care of yourselves and see you in the next one. Bye bye.